Good morning. Thank you for joining everyone today. This is what our fourth day of Computer Science Week is almost finished. I hope you guys have been having fun and learning a lot about Computer Science Week. We have the wonderful Adam Azula here today. He is with the district, and I'll let him go ahead and get started.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show for today. It's Computer Science Week. It's Thursday. It's Friday Eve. We like that as we get closer to the weekend. So I am here for the next 20 or so minutes. I will do a good job of looking down at my phone, making sure that we're on time because I want you to be able to ask questions of me so that I can answer them because that's what I like doing. And that's part of the career of a data analyst is to answer questions. So just let me know if you have a question and I will make time at the end for any questions that you want to save on scratch paper. So my name is Mr. Azula. I was born in Palatka 39 years ago. I have spent my whole entire academic career in public schools for the most part here in Putnam County. I went to elementary school at Mosley. I went to middle school at what was called Beasley at the time. And I finished high school at Palatka High School, where I was in the class of 2001, so long ago, 20 years ago to be exact. I went to college for 2 years at St. John's River State College here in Palatka, and then I transferred to Florida State to finish my bachelor's degree at Florida State University. I just want to say that all of this college and everything, this was made possible through the Bright Future Scholarship Program. And I encourage anyone who needs money to help pay for college, if you're in the same situation that I was in, where I knew my parents couldn't afford to send me to college and then I'd need to find that money somehow. I learned about scholarships and I learned how to apply and how to get scholarships. And I also had to keep up with my grades and everything as well to make sure that I got those. But it is possible to do that. And my college was 100% paid for by the time I went to Florida State. And in fact, my grades were so good just because I worked hard and set time aside for it that they actually paid me to go to college and I got grants for a couple years there. I came back from Tallahassee where I taught fourth grade at Mellon, which is across from the high school. And then I taught sixth grade science at Jenkins, which is the closed middle school that's in here in town. After spending some time in the classroom, I was hired by the supervisor of the IT department at that time to come and work as IT support for Putnam County School District. And then I was able to take another job after that where I supported almost 20 school districts at a time in their IT and software needs as well. Currently, today, I support teachers in the classroom. I'm an instructional coach for social studies, as well as the data analyst or the data scientist for the school district, where I help support school administrators and district administrators in achieving their goals. A little bit about me. I'm an avid golfer. I've been playing drums for almost 30 years, and I've been collecting comics for a really, really long time. Believe it or not, when I was about 12, when I was in middle school, there were two different comic book stores that were here in Palatka. And actually, my first job was working in one of those comic book stores when I turned 14. And I still collect to this very day. You can see a picture from my Instagram page where I showcase all the different comics. Now, technology for me, since we're talking about Computer Science Week and we're talking technology and careers, it all started with this desktop computer that you see here, the good old Apple IIe. This was one of the first personal computers. No, there were not laptops at this time. You had to be plugged into the wall at all times, just like the phone that you see here. And this is how I remember phones being when I was in elementary and middle school before cordless phones even became a thing in houses we were always tethered to the wall. Same thing with our gaming systems. Here's the first Nintendo entertainment system. I remember getting this when I was probably about 7 or 8 years old, playing the original Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, all those great games. So you can see that the technology that was available when I was very young looks totally different now. Same thing is going to happen in your lifetime. Everything that you like and you use in 20 years is probably going to look very, very different. Because in 1988, if I would have told someone that I wanted to take a picture of them with my phone, they would have looked at me like I was nuts, right? Because that wasn't a thing then. My love of computers really started when I started learning more about computer operating systems. So how do all these background applications and things make a computer run? How does it allow hardware to talk to the computer, vice versa? And once I found out you could customize operating systems, this just planted a seed in my brain that let me know that there were background things that were happening in a computer that I, as a user, could manipulate to customize the experience for myself. And then in 1997, I remember going to the high school, Palaca High. I was a freshman in ninth grade, going to the library and connecting to the internet for the very first time. And here's what the Google homepage looked like in 1997. Um, I didn't have an email address at this point. I had no username or password for anything. We really used the internet to search for research, so that we could write papers and essays and things like that. But once I knew that there was an internet and there were these things called websites, that planted another seed in my head. And luckily enough, when I was in 11th and 12th grade, there was a class offered at the high school, and part of this technology class was learning how to create websites using HTML code. That's like the OG code for creating websites that you're hosting on the internet. But at that time, there was no Squarespace, there was no Google Sites, there were no companies that had website templates that you just put your information in and click a button and it goes on the website. You actually had to, in the background, type in code to make colors and borders and flashy things appear on the screen. You actually had to know that language. And we used to do that on a notepad. It was cool if you liked someone's website, you could go cut their code from their website, paste it onto your notepad, change a couple things around, and then call it your own. That was the old Wild Wild West days of the internet. So all those seeds got planted. After I had taught in the classroom for a few years, the supervisor of the IT department was looking to hire someone that could run the help desk for teachers and also become a computer repair technician. And he selected me, and I absolutely loved that job. You'll find that there is a help desk at almost any company, whether it's a private company, a small, a big business, or even if it's a local government municipality, kind of like what we are here at the school district. There's always a help desk available. And if you want to help people as part of your career, this is always an option. I loved it. The phone never stopped ringing. I was always meeting new people. And the best way to learn about a piece of hardware or a software application is to try and teach it to someone else, to try and help them solve their problems. You will never learn more than by helping someone else, I can promise you. So people would call with these issues. They couldn't do this, they wanted to do this. And then I would sit there on the phone and help them, sometimes connect to their machine and show them how to get their work done or how to be more productive. And part of that is this idea of customer service. Customer service is not just something that's limited to a help desk in technology. Customer service affects all aspects of jobs and careers, no matter the level. It's a way to treat people respectfully, to be helpful, to be patient, to be kind, to listen to their problems, and to serve a need. And that's what I love about my career. I feel like I'm in service to other people. This is hard for me to talk about myself because I never do this in this format, because I wanted a career where I could kind of hang back and support other people so that they could be successful. So let's talk about what is a data analyst. What do they do? So you can see I've got a couple little definitions that I wrote here. I help people achieve their goals by collecting, organizing, and visualizing data for them. Now, in my job, this data is usually around human behavior. So for example, sometimes I may create charts and graphs about attendance. Well, attendance statistics are directly affected by human behavior, whether or not a student shows up to school. Sometimes I look at FSA tests or EOCs. Again, that is your human behavior that is giving me an output of data. For our school district, I help our school leaders understand what's happening at the schools so they can strategize how to improve schools. So it's my job to help the people that can improve the schools by giving them information in a way that is understandable and actionable. So for instance, here is an image of me presenting at a conference in Colorado. I was invited to this international conference on education, which was great because they paid for my plane ticket, they paid for my hotel. I got to go out to Colorado, leave Florida, see the Rocky Mountains, and present different dashboards and websites that I had created, displaying different information in a new and exciting way. So for example, here is a dashboard that I created for our website, which took everyone in the, well, a lot of people in the community last year, about 1,358 people, took a survey. This was students, parents, teachers, and rather than us reading all 1,358 responses, I ran it through my program and I created these visuals here to help us understand what the community was saying. That's important to us, that we change and we respond to the community and we serve the community. So we have to understand how the community feels. And this dashboard was one way that we at the school district could understand how to better serve the community. Sometimes I work with teachers where we analyze data and we sit in rooms that look just like classrooms, just like you all are sitting in. And it's almost like school all over again, where we're reading, writing, speaking, listening. We're using mathematics to quantify, and we're doing it in a scientific kind of manner with protocols. So learning never really stops, no matter what job that you have. So it goes back to communicating with people and learning how to work with people side by side to solve problems. But one of the most important aspects of my job is to make sure that we're following the law. Data can tell us whether or not we're in compliance or in violation of the law. Now, it's very important. I do not want to break any laws. I do not want to violate any laws. I believe that our school district should serve all students, regardless of religion, race, ethnicity, anything like that. We should be in service to you all. And part of that is making sure that we follow all the laws as they are written by the state or the federal government, or even our local school board here as well. So it's very important to me. I have to certify that when I present numbers and data and visuals, that essentially I'm swearing by an unwritten oath that everything I'm presenting is factual, because I would not want to create something that manipulates someone's way of thinking about something, that was based on a lie or based on a falsehood. That would be um, unethical to do so. So I keep throwing around the word data. Where does data come from? Well, data comes from human behaviors. We talked about attendance, whether or not you show up to school. Um, Anytime you are interacting on like an iReady or a USA Test Prep or an FSA, and you're clicking those keys away, you're creating data points. These data points, these little bits of information get stored on these huge big servers somewhere in the world. Actually, there's a server room right next to me. These big server computers are so important that they have their own air conditioning system so they don't get too hot. So they have like 2 ACs in there just for these computers because they can run so hot. And this is important in school. It's important that you do your best when you are like taking an EOC or taking an FSA or even taking a practice assessment. Because if you were to just Christmas tree or not take it seriously, then your teachers and administrators get information, and what they're trying to do with that information is help you. So if you blow something off, it's hard for us to help you, or we can't help you in the right way than if you would have interacted with that environment authentically, given the right answers, and gotten some support. So anyway, be careful on the internet because there are a lot of bad actors out there who will take your data and manipulate it in some way. Now, luckily, we take lots of strides at the school district so that your Chromebooks, your wireless access points, everything is very secure because we want to keep everything that you do safe and confidential. So we have these big servers that are storing all this data input from users and from different systems. I am able to pull that data out and plop it on a spreadsheet like you see right here. Now, this is a fake spreadsheet. This is a Google sheet. Um, these aren't real people. These aren't real numbers right here. But I just wanted to show you that we call this data mining, where we go to a server and just like old miners in the Wild West with pickaxes and shovels, we mine for certain bits of data that we want to see. Now, the problem is when you've got data like this, it's very hard to interpret or understand what the human behavior is or what's going on. So we take that data that's on that spreadsheet and we turn it into something colorful and artistic that is more easy to understand and take action on. So the spreadsheet is very hard to understand or get a picture of what's happening. But when you see it on a chart or a graph or in a pie chart, you really get a sense for, okay, how can I change this? How can I improve this? How can I lessen this? And then we can start to come up with strategies to try and help people out. I mentioned this earlier about all the steps that we take to keep your data secure and even your family's data secure. But it's the second most important aspect of my job after following the law is keeping all information confidential and private. That means knowing how to store it, knowing how to share it, knowing does it go on my personal phone or not, or does it live on my local machine here at work. So I have to do a lot of reading. I have to do a lot of understanding of new security enhancements and features for operating systems, phones, whether it's Android, whether it's Mac OS. That falls on me to be a person who's going out there reading and making sure that we're in compliance with all this. And the last slide that I have here before I kind of will ask for questions or show you some other things is who can become a data analyst? My answer is any person can. Any person can become a data scientist or a data analyst if they just practice. Remember, I showed you that I'm a golfer and I'm a drummer. That all took practice. You don't just try something one time and if you're not good, you give up. If you want something bad enough, you're going to keep practicing over and over. What's interesting, look at the subjects that I incorporate into my career on a daily basis: algebra, statistics, art, psychology, reading, writing, and science. I used to be the high school student in the Algebra 2 class or in geometry that was like, when am I ever going to use this? I'm interested in blah, 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 blah. Well, now I'm sitting here and there's not a day that goes by that I don't have to remember order of operations, the difference between an expression and an equation, a coordinate plane, a y-axis, an x-axis, all these things that you learn in math, especially in the technology realm, they never go away. Knowing percentages, knowing mean, median, and mode, these are things that I do on a daily basis now. So it does have its place. And even though it may be hard to be good at math or to be good at reading, practice, 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 because there is going to be an application in any career that you take in the future. Because most people I know work with Excel on a daily basis in the world, or Google Sheet or something like that. Whether you're in sales, whether you work at Disney, whether you're making movies, I can almost guarantee you that you're working off of a spreadsheet at some point. Tools that I use, I've got an iMac computer here in my office. I've got a MacBook Pro. Even though, and this is, people always say I'm weird, I like Mac computers, but when it comes to my personal phone, I like Androids all the way, which is kind of odd. I use Google Drive to store things confidentially, and I use a little program called Tableau to make all of the artistic data visualizations that I produce for people so that they can get their job done. All right, so I've been talking for quite some time. I'm going to stop and pause. Does anyone have any questions before I just show you a couple more things before we go on? Any questions out there?
You can go ahead and turn on your mic and your camera if you have any students that have any questions.
I'll just go on for a couple more minutes and interrupt if you do have a question. Sometimes,
Hang on, Adam. This is Mr. Cohen.
oh, Mr. Cohen, go ahead.
In our class. So I kind of took a census. So some of the students, because I have a reasonably large class, so but they were pretty interested in saying how would that apply to like just their normal daily stuff, like if they owned a landscaping business. So if you can maybe drill it down to even a little lower tech, so to speak, where how it would be advantageous for them to be able to know these skills and how it would actually add to make their lives easier, because a lot of these kids are going to be in positions where they're going to be either helping their parents or just working in those kind of jobs and eventually starting their own businesses. So
Yeah,
the importance of analytics is great. So without further ado, I'm going to go on mute and let you address. Thanks.
no, Mr. Cohen, in your class, that is a great question. We sometimes learn skills that go into our personal life as well as our career. So here's one thing. I have a side business for my comic books. Okay. So I'm going to show you my personal spreadsheet this is a snapshot of something that I've been keeping for 3 years here. So this is a spreadsheet. Down the left-hand side are the names of different graded comic books that I own. And if you were to click, I've hyperlinked them so that it could take you to a website so you could get more information about this comic book. Even on this website, you'll see that there are data visualizations such as how many of these comics exist at certain grades out on the internet and how much are they selling for. Because in a business, the whole point of having a business is to what? Is to make money. No one opens a business to give away money, not make money and shut the business down. That's not the point of a business at all. So here is just a sample spreadsheet that I made that over time I can track the prices of different comic books as they're selling on the internet. And I can determine, did this rise from last week's price? And you can see I've got conditional formatting here. So if the price went up, it turns green and it says that the price rose. If the price dropped, the cell will turn red and it'll say dropped. And then I can determine what my profit margin would be and is it worth selling or is it not worth selling? So you see down here, let me change tabs. I've got to move I can show you books that I've sold over time. The price that I paid for them is in purple. Oops. The price that I sold them for is in orange, and my profit is over here in this third column. And depending upon how much profit I made, it'll either turn green if it was a really good positive profit, or it'll turn red if I lost money. And you can see that over time there's 107 comics here. That here's a little graph that I made money on 92 of those. I broke even on 4, and I lost money on 10 of those comic books. This is very similar to what all businesses do to try and determine, did they get a return on their initial investment? And that's very important at any job. But you can see here, I'm using this to just track my own hobby, my little side business of collecting comic books. Um, in the realm of the school district, here's a spreadsheet that I created for principals to help them understand, are students taking the right math courses? Are they following the right progression or not? And again, everything's color coded. So if we see a color change that doesn't look right, we know to take a closer look at that row or at that column to determine, is that student in the right math course based on their FSA, based on their EOC, based on their gradebook grades, because we want to make sure that we're serving everyone at best. So these are a couple ways we use spreadsheets, both as a hobby to try and make a little side money on the side, as well as how we use it at the school district to make sure that students are in the right courses that they need to be in as well. I shared this one earlier. I think that this one's great. This one is a data viz that was created by a colleague. This is going to go back to January 2018, and it's going to show you by each state what was the most popular Google keyword search for that day and that year. So for example, January 1, 2018, Cardi B, you can see in every state, like look how many states Cardi B was the #1 search keyword. If I click play, it's going to start advancing us in time, and we can start seeing here in early 2018, it was Logan Paul, then Altered Carbon came on Netflix, then Black Panther came out, and then all of a sudden Fortnite just became the most popular search topic on Google for like the rest of 2018. I mean, look at how every day, well, The Incredibles came out and everyone was searching for that for a while, but look how popular Fortnite was as a search tool. And sometimes, like the people who create Fortnite want to know, is our game having an impact? Who's talking about it? Who's not talking about it? It can help them build their business. Obviously, in November, Baby Shark came out. Stan Lee died in 2018, so you saw his name come up there as well. But that was just another example of a fun data visualization. And this is a profile page that I've made for myself on this Tableau website that houses different dashboards that I've created for school leaders to understand if what we're doing is correct or not. So are we putting kids in the correct courses? So I've got lots of things here. You can click, you can highlight. This is a total interactive thing. Sometimes this was another thing a colleague created that I shared with the last group about meteorite landings for the last 500 years. Where have meteorites landed across the world, and what were the 10 largest meteorite landings? So this is definitely more scientific in nature, but you can see how artistic you have to be as well to come up with a visualization that is pretty, that people want to look at. And so you can go online. Here's a Squid Game visual. There's one for Game of Thrones, different horror movies, things like that. These are just fun, but it's a way to take data from the internet, scrub it from the internet, and create something graphical and informational about whatever topic it may be. Like Latino music collaborations, and how all these different artists cross over time, where they cross over, and what are the songs that they cross over with each other at. So just fun. These are things that people do as a hobby some people do it as a job, and some people like me, we do it both as a hobby and as a career. So the world is completely open. But I know that we're kind of over our time right now. Are there any other questions that anyone has before we sign off?
Well, thank you, Mr. Cohen's class, for joining us today. That was a great question. I hope you
You're
enjoy the rest
welcome.
of
We're gonna get off because we got to start getting ready to leave.
Okay.
All
I
right.
hope you
Thank
enjoy the
you all.
rest of the
Take
week.
care.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam. That was great. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. That was a lot of fun.